On this very second day of MARUF, we have a very exciting program, and we have the volume of the locals, Citizens Assembly. I am Professor Dr. Savaş Zafer Şahin, and I am the Vice Director of Citizens Assembly in Ankara. I'm gonna start with a bad joke. All of those books behind of me belong to the Citizens Assembly, and I hope that in the future all of us will have those kinds of libraries. I think that we are in a good standing conditions. We have a lot of researches and studies. I'm gonna advertise shortly in November in Balıkesir. We'll have the third city assemblies symposium. I'm waiting all the related parties to this one. On our very second day, we'll be talking about the accumulation of citizens' assemblies. And by also taking into consideration the gender equality, we have three presidents of citizens' assemblies. I'm so sorry, there are four. And the four of them are my very close friends. They are my colleagues. At the beginning of this meeting, I want to draw a very short framework. And after this framework, I will invite Mürsel Sabancı, our very own participant. I think that is a very, very related topic. Why we need to volume up? Maybe we need to discuss this one. And maybe even if we won't be able to talk in details about this one, but in the local, in our neighborhood, in our area, we have real values, real issues, real problems, and those are among the daily discussions of Turkey. And there are some realities which may be ignored. And when those things are ignored, therefore the decision making of the locals can't be impacted. And this problem of not being involved, it is called, as we say it in academia, as a vacuum. We have the mayors, we are selecting the mayors, but we don't know them. And because we don't know them, the local decision-making processes become difficult, and maybe the decision which we can't contribute to decision which can impact our lives. And on the other hand, we have the lack of involvement mechanism. And lastly, I want to say that we need strong mechanism. We need some factors which may really impact this participation and involvement policy. And at this point, the citizens' assemblies, especially after the elections of 2019, I think all the political parties, all the academia, and all the local authorities in Turkey are interested into this project. Of course, this wasn't a sudden occurrence. We have a past of almost 20 years, and there is a really big transformation process, and we can see the changes submerged, undermerged by those citizens assemblies. Sometimes they did different activities, they were activists. Sometimes they become a part of the social activities. And today I'm very proud to say that participation in Turkey, when we talk about participation in Turkey, it reminds us about citizens' assembly with the pros and the cons. I think that this assembly is one of our powerful tools, and it enables the cities to be more livable. And I think that this is the local governance missions. And after this question, I want to start with Mr. Mürsel Sabancı. He is the chair of Balıkesir Citizens Assembly and also is the periodic spokesman of Turkey Citizens Assembly. And even if we don't have a superior association for the citizens' assemblies, we have voluntary-based structures. I think that the Association of Citizens Assembly is very important, has a very powerful presence in here. We have also a platform, and I think that it is efficient in order to move up at the superior level. I want to let Mr. Mürsel now to talk, and I have a question. So, Mr. Mürsel, if we wouldn't have those assemblies, what would we have in place? What would be the environmental conceptualization of this, especially during the COVID? The citizens' assemblies were very active, very efficient. And at the scale of metropolitan cities, they did a lot of things. And I remember us talking about this. If we are going to brainstorm around this concept, what would happen in the lack of citizens' assembly? We talked about that, but let me recall you that you have a time of 12 minutes. So let's stick to this period. I will try my best to allow you as much time as you need, but let's try like that. Thank you very much. I want to send my greetings from Balıkesir to the other heads of citizens' assemblies. First of all, let me answer for you. I think that there will be a color will be missing from the rainbow. I mean, if you take out the blue from the rainbow, it wouldn't have a meaning. And I want to offer my thanks to all the heads and to MARUF organization, to this program. I also participated in the past. I gained a lot of experiences from this. I think that they are very efficient and important, especially in order to gain specializations and experience. Thank you very much to all of our solution partners and to administration of Marmara Municipalities Association. The participation mechanism itself is the Citizens Assembly, and according to our regulations and to the General Council that are in the city, I'm talking about those kinds of structure. We have in those, we have regulations, and those are determined in line with our own guides, and they ensure a strong participation to the Citizens Assembly. And while we are trying to implement this, we have certain principles. I want to talk a little bit about those. Which principles are important for us to add values to the cities? Generally speaking, the assemblies takes as principles the participants, and also they pay importance to the differences. They have general structures which provide solutions, innovative solutions. They support and prioritize the scientific works. They support the international collaborations. And also they try to involve everyone. They are against any discrimination and hate. They are trying to protect the city and its citizens, and their top priorities are the democratic principles, and they are trying to contribute to the development of the civil society. The focus points are belonging to the city and rising awareness on this end. And in the light of those principles, those are the basis for foundations of those assemblies, and we are creating a network with collaboration, solidarity, and participation. This is how the Association of Citizens Assembly is founded. We have almost 250 members. We have a board of directors and a head of board of directors. And there are some valuable items which are, we have an ethical council and we have presidents of those councils. We also have an advisory council and a committee. We have different committees for different structure. We have obstacle-free city committee where we are implementing and developing projects. There is another committee for youth, for culture, arts, for tourism, for sustainable cities, and for basic rights committee. And the Citizens Assembly are working with those committees, and they are trying to develop as much projects as possible together with those committees. Other than that, we have different studies and different works in order to contribute to nationalization. And also there are some works that we did despite the pandemic. It was a very valuable work, and a lot of NGOs and a lot of academicians were involved, and we had a workshop in order to know the female councils, and we put up together a report. And we have the young woman team. As I mentioned, we worked with different NGOs. This is just one example, but we had different workshops, and we did this both on academia and the regulatory side. We are trying to contribute, we are trying to support the obstacle-free city councils, and we are trying to support and to multiply the good examples such as neighborhood committees. We did the same in Ankara, in Eskişehir, and also in Istanbul metropolitan area. We conducted those online during the pandemic, but before of that they were physical. And Zafer, I know you had contributions to this too. And those meetings enabled us to share our opinions and solutions. And we have the youth councils who came from Ankara, from Anıtkabir. We had a very enjoyable journey to Dumlupınar. We had the 3rd August train of victory. The young people go together, they visited everything, and they witnessed the national strength monuments. So this is how we plan those kinds of projects. As you mentioned about the Turkish Citizens Assembly Association. We have some symposiums. The first and the second was made in Bursa. And this year we will have in November on 18, 19, 20, 21. It will be in Balıkesir. Here we will be trying to be together with the academician members. We also have our general secretary. We'll have posters. We'll have conferences, and this is how we'll be operating during the process. And beyond of all of those, while we are talking about association, I am the head of Balıkesir Citizens Assembly. We are quite excited about the councils of youngsters of obstacle-free cities. So we have different work groups. We are hosting those organizations. I'm very happy that we are able to get together and to try to find solutions. And I'm very hopeful about Balıkesir Citizens Assembly. I want to give you some examples. Let me show you some examples. We have District Citizens Assembly, and together with them, we have some workshops about environment. As you know, we have two sea coasts, to Aegean Sea and Marmara Sea. Therefore, we pay importance to climate changes. And with contribution of different parties, we have a very broad report. We get a nice experiences. I'm very happy about the result. I just want to share you as an example. And we did some awareness raising meetings also in Balıkesir. So we talked about natural disasters. We talked about the preparedness situation of the cities. We are doing those kinds of workshops with NGOs, with other partners. We started to do those kinds of works together with Citizenship Assembly. We did an archaeological meeting in Balıkesir in order to reveal the archaeological potential of the city. We tried to discuss and to focus on our possible and potential contributions. We had some solution partners, and during COVID, we talked about measures, about what can be done. It was very nice to have this solidarity and solidarity network together. And I want to say that as an association, especially during COVID, I'm very proud about the works, about the outputs of those assemblies. I witnessed from the first hand their works and the things that they have did. I was very proud with our citizenship assemblies, with our volunteers especially, and most of all with our country. They try to reflect their very best. They came from Ardahan to Tekirdağ. They went until Rize. Also, they adapted to the digitalization during the COVID, and they worked together in a very effective way. And I think that Nuray will also guide you through that. At the last Izmir earthquake, we all of us witnessed the works did by them. And also we did the same in Balıkesir with Citizens Assembly. And during the pandemic, we saw how we can improve ourselves, how we can become better in the digital area. We shared a lot of suggestions and recommendations. I think that my time is up. I think that Mürsel, you are quite good. And I want to let Nuray, President, in here to talk from Eskişehir. I know that Eskişehir has an urbanization concept which make us proud, and I know that the entire world is envying actually, and I guess that Nuray has some very different observations to share with us. I think that you have one of Citizens Assembly which is continuing for a very long time, and I know that you are like a mentor for us, for all of us. And beside of that, I know that you undertake a very important role as the head of Citizens Assembly. And when I talked before to you, we are emphasizing on the decision-making mechanisms of the city. I will be very glad if I can hear something from you related to this topic. Of course, on the other hand, we have the environmental issues. I know that you have some challenges with the power plants and also about the climate change. So yes, I'm not going to talk too much about that. Nuray, you can have the word. Thank you very much.
I would like to first of all welcome all of you with my dearest respects and deepest respect. We always have this theme of thinking together and moving together, acting together. This is our motivation. This is what keeps us going. This theme is our objective. And as the Eskişehir City Council, I want to thank and salute all of you with respect on behalf of myself and the City Council of Eskişehir. And hopefully we can inform all of the audience today, just like Mr. Zafer and Mürsel mentioned. Today we have multi-dimensional problems and issues in all of our cities, and there is a need for a third-party approach to these newly emerging problems. And we cannot alone solve these problems. Neither the institutions or councils, city councils themselves, they cannot tackle all these problems cities are experiencing. So we know that these are all problematic areas, so we have to act together. We need cooperations. When we talk about cooperation, personal endeavors and traditional approaches, of course, are still needed. But in addition to these efforts, we need to cooperate with each other and act together for a longer, sustainable strategic planning. And we need to meet the expectations of the people of the cities that we are living in. So we are acting on improving the cooperation between the city councils and the public institutions, because city councils have citizens assemblies and of course some public institutions, but being voluntary and doing voluntary action is actually the basis of what we are trying to do. So thanks to our volunteers who brings a new approach to solving our problems, and a common sense and togetherness is actually what we are trying to achieve. So looking at the Eskişehir example specifically, Eskişehir City Council, under the roof of the City Council, all works that are done or that is planned to be done, there is no discrimination. We are working for enriching and respecting all the richness of the fabric of this society. So we are actually providing an environment for all of the people to be represented equally. We have NGOs, we have universities, we have a lot of volunteers. We want to take a solution-based approach. The problems of cities can never be solved entirely. There are already newly emerging different issues that we are facing every day. For example, the traffic issues and the number of vehicles on the roads, it keeps rising and rising. So in order to tackle these kinds of problems, we need cooperations and working together. In order to obtain a democratical participation in these councils, we have a responsibility. And there are a lot of people who want to tell stories and say something about what needs to be done. So NGOs, for example, need to be included in this endeavor so that we can make the city life even easier for all of the people. We are also trying to prevent a lot of issues that could block the way to improve life in the city. I have some examples from some of the works we have done, and Mr. Zafer mentioned that we should give some examples, and I want to do that. One of the most important ones is that we have our work group about environment and health and Change the World initiative, and this project, I want to talk about it, but before mentioning it, we have heard from mayors, for example, today, the biggest problem in front of them that they are facing are environmental problems. And we know that from all around the country, there are mayors that are talking about this issue. So the environmental issues and the climate crisis, these issues are all in front of us, so we are facing these together. There are some possible outcomes and possible natural disasters that we may face in the future because of the climate change. So we have done some works to solve some of the issues in these areas. But it is a very multidimensional and also problem, and it also requires efforts from different areas. As the Eskişehir municipality, and together with other institutions and volunteers, we need to work on recycling, for example. We wanted to raise awareness in recycling, and we wanted to tell people about this, and we wanted to establish some permanent and profound changes, because people know about recycling, but they don't have a detailed understanding of recycling. So we talked about recycling with recycling companies and some of the institutions, and we have learned through our meetings that people are making some personal endeavors, and they are trying actually to recycle, but they don't really know a lot about it. So we wanted to understand which areas and which neighborhoods, for example, had the biggest problem with recycling, and we wanted to find a way out of this misunderstanding or lack of knowledge. We established we held very important meetings. For example, the municipality actually tried to tackle this problem, but they couldn't actually get the results they wanted. So we actually came up with a report as a result of our works, and we noticed that a lot of people are actually lacking knowledge. And we noticed another thing, that we needed to reach the children and younger generations to teach them from a young age, and we started to work on that, and we went to schools and tried to raise awareness among younger people. And also our volunteers went around and talked to people about recycling, and they actually put on a theater play, and in order to be able to raise awareness in a more fun way, let's say. And of course, we continued our efforts. Both men and women were informed about the importance and other details of recycling. And even plastic bags, for example, we have encouraged people towards not using plastic bags, and we even taught some people how to make their own tote bags, for example, for when they go to the marketplace or when they go to the supermarkets. So these types of activities were among some of the efforts we put in terms of teaching recycling. And also municipalities worked with us, and our volunteers worked with us, and we actually tried to act on raising awareness on environmental issues, starting with recycling. After we went to middle school level children and students, we wanted to go a little younger, and we went to the elementary schools, and we asked them what they knew about recycling and what they thought about the environment. And it was a very measurable effect that we saw as a result of our activities. Even in the neighborhoods that we tried to raise awareness in, we saw very tangible results. And as a result of our efforts, the awareness, the increase in the awareness levels were really reflected on the reports that we collected from the areas that we worked. Of course, environment is important for all of us. We were fighting against the thermal power plants in one of our regions. And of course, agriculture is very important for our country. And the power plant was actually planned to be built in an area that was an agricultural area. So we were fighting against it. And thankfully, we had a lot of different natural disasters, even in the Izmir earthquake disaster. Unfortunately, we faced something like that, but our volunteers and our city council helped with the efforts to help the victims, help the people of Izmir after the earthquake. We also had some working groups for natural disasters, but we also noticed that in these working groups we needed to raise the awareness within the group as well. We know that there are some first aid courses, for example, provided to the city council and other volunteers. And other city councils are actually taking these things that we are doing as an example, and it spreads to other cities. So we are trying to keep continuing, keep on going, and help each other. Other city councils opened the way for us to follow, and fortunately we have the opportunity to open the way to different opportunities, different good works and projects to be done by other city council. And as people who are respecting their cities and who are in need of protection of their cities, I want to give you my whole respect and thank you very much for all the things you have shared with us. And now, is there anyone among the audience, maybe they don't know about the city council, maybe they can think that they might have some misunderstanding or misconception here. If you ask for, what kind of difference do city councils make in the society, this is the event that you can learn the answer to. A lot of actions and plans actually have a motivation and the power of people behind it. If you don't have this motivation, if you cannot create this motivation and support from people, you cannot do anything. You cannot realize any plans you might have. So it is not easy to form this kind of motivation and the support from the people, especially in a city with the size of Istanbul's population. The official population is about 60 million people, but during the day it increases to about 22 million, 25 million. And this is a very significant number of people. Here we have Miss Tülin here with us, and with a woman's approach, everything becomes a little bit better. And I am really happy that she's here with us today. She's our friend in this combat against all of the things that we are mentioning here. She, for example, has been talking about the city councils for years and years, but there are some issues that hasn't seen the light of day. Active citizenship, for example. As a result of asking these questions and bringing these issues to light for years, thankfully, now we are talking about these things. And now I will give the floor to Ms. Tülin, and we will hear from her what she thinks about these issues. Well, first of all, I would like to give you my respect and salute to you. And I should thank all the organizers of this event because these are very important places for all of us to get inspired and to learn new things. And this session is no different. And Ms. Nuray, she is actually a very experienced City Council president, chairman. So Istanbul City Council is about 2 years old. It's a fairly new City Council, but we are working on a much bigger scale. So when we look at the City Council and their experiences in Istanbul, and when you look at the platform's general experience, thankfully we have spent these 2 years in a total sense of security and safety because we had all these experiences from other places. When we talk about the city councils and active citizenship and citizens assemblies and the cooperation between the local administrations and these councils, this is always the issue. There are always some discussions and questions about these issues, and we have tried some things out, and it is really difficult to sustain these efforts. And of course we need to revive the local democracy, and this is one of the main objectives of Istanbul City Council. I want to go through a couple of images and visuals. Can I share my screen with you? I think it could be a problem if you didn't give your presentation before. Let me ask first if we can. It's not a huge problem for me. I mean, I could just go over my notes, but it would be better if I could just share my screen with you. What I want to talk to you about is some of the works that we have done, we have finished, and some of them are still ongoing, and some of them are for the future, our plans. And participative budget studies and works that we are doing is very important for City Council because it is something, a participation method for all the citizens to take part in whatever we are doing. So in terms of the City Council of Istanbul, this is a very important experience that we had in the past. During the preparation period, the representatives from the municipality and from the NGOs and Istanbul Planning Agency, they came together and they talked about what issues are the most sensitive for people and how can we cooperate more. And there were extensive studies, extensive works, and for a participatory budget, we actually determined a method and a model. So when we completed the project collecting process, and according to the budget, we completed those preparations. And normally, in January of 2022, we will start this project. So the first experience or the first trial actually happens fairly quickly. But with the cooperation experience of the NGOs and the municipalities, we will actually see how healthy it was and how good of a cooperation it was. And this is like a trial for us actually. This is a learning area for us. So as a result, when we look at the results of this experience, we are now starting our works towards the second phase of this project, and we will collect the fruits of this important experience in the second phase. When you look at the active citizenship concept and the city council, it is always promoted, it is always on our agenda. There are meetings that are held, there are some workshops and working groups, there are mappings and scientific investigations, and even small workshops for all people. And the outcomes from these studies are published on social media or the city council's reports. And the civic society is actually talking a lot about social support and combat against natural disasters and voluntary work in these types of natural disasters. People are very eager to be helpful in those senses. And there are some reports, for example, on the environmental side, we have produced some reports on earthquakes, on heat waves, for example. We had held some YouTube seminars and workshops. So city council channels on social media or on the internet, they have all the reports and data from these activities. We have seen through these 2 years that it would be better to apply two-phase participations. And so I want to give an example to this, what I mean by this two-phase participation. Urban service workshop, for example, RODA Foundation and Balıkesir Learning Association were included in one of our studies, and we have worked again with specialists from some NGOs and from the local administration, and we then moved on to the second phase of our workshops and programs, and then we created a strategy document. So this was a very inspiring study for us, because along with some Roman women and their problems, when we were trying to solve their problems, we actually noticed that this two-phased or two-staged approach was much better in solving our problems, because it was working more smoothly. And a lot of people are worried about, what they can do, for example, if they can go with only NGOs or some foundations, what kind of citizenship approach should be taken. So we discussed a lot of things through these works. And when we look at the citizens associations, for example, we have seen some different participation methods, and we have seen that we can bring some of the NGOs and the citizens assemblies together. There are some citizens foundations and assemblies where we need to put more work in. Another experience we had, another trial, let's say, showed us another result. In this participatory budget approach, we used a kind of almost like a play to help people understand the phases. So you actually, when you're in the assembly, you have a shopping chart, and you actually place some of the issues that you want to tackle into the shopping chart, and then you are actually talking about other people who are also adding the same issues to their shopping charts. And this is almost like a making this important issues into a play and helping other people participate, especially for younger generation. This is a more fun way to face these problems and increase their participation, because it is a two-phased method and also a very fun one. And there are a lot of active voluntary people in our assembly. And awareness and the sense of belonging is really in the forefront in the councils. And also there are some projects, some active citizenship projects with awards, for example. And in those projects we have some tasks, let's say, and if they can realize them, they get some small awards. Again, very important issue is the participation from children. This is something that we are lacking, and there are some activities defined for younger children and for adults. But in Istanbul City Council, participation by children is very important, because we wanted to say that all of the children of Istanbul City are natural participants and members of the city council, but we have to get them here, we have to hear from them, we have to discuss with them. This sounded almost impossible, and we said if the children do not participate or do not come to the city council, we said the city council should go to them. And we are now working on a project that could enable this, and we are working with some NGOs, and one of them actually volunteered to do this work. And there's a box that is prepared, and for example, there's a Istanbul project in that box. So randomly a child is given a project related to a problem of Istanbul. So they will be working with, the city council will be working with children specifically, and then they will have their recommendations, and they will also kind of audit the municipalities, for example, seeing whether they can actually realize their projects. Of course, this active citizenship, the promotion of active citizenship is very important, but it is also important that we secure this. And there is another project, another work that we are doing, and it is the city contract or city agreement, we can call it. There are some rights of the citizens and the responsibilities of the citizens, especially regarding participation. The city agreement encloses all of these responsibilities and the rights of the citizens, and we want to work with the local administration to realize this project as well. And I used to speak for only 2 or 5 minutes, but recently it's not even enough for me to talk about these issues for 2 hours, 3 hours. So thank you very much for providing this opportunity for me.
We have Mr. Halil İbrahim Yılmaz from Ankara, and when I'm letting Halil to talk, I want to interfere and say that I walk around during the last 4 years in entire Turkey, and I meet a lot of people. I was very happy, but whenever I was back in Ankara, I was just laying at home because there was no activity, and everyone was like, okay, in Turkey, centralization is very important, but I mean, the bureaucratic load burden and the politicians in Ankara were like, okay, whatever they are saying, we had to do that, we had to enact upon them. But I mean, from all around the Turkey, people are coming, and I mean, when the people from Ankara are saying, okay, we have citizens assemblies, and those assemblies are actually operating, they are actually doing something, this is a great thing. But unfortunately, for a very long period of time, Ankara was the pilot, the leader of the political polarization, not only of the political polarization, but of the cultural transformation. And I mean, indeed, it was a necessary transformation, but after the local elections of 2019, we only were able to achieve our targets. We had very strong efforts. We did a lot of things, and we knew that we need to have a very powerful knowledge to be able to do that. I mean, we can't even imagine 2 years ago how hard it would be to do something like this. But I mean, I have now I have two citizens assembly presidents who I didn't even know 2 years before. I'm very happy. And when I'm lighting Halil to do his speech, I have two keywords. Is there a culture of participation? How can we create, how can we enable this kinds of culture in Ankara? I mean, we are still trying to do that, and I know that there are a lot of things that we need to do. But what about a normal citizens assembly in Ankara? Are there any deviant samples of this? Okay, I'm letting you to do your speech, Halil. My dear President and Zafer. I mean, Zafer, I think is doing a kind of social experiment on me. And I know that there are a lot of crimes committed against the urban, etc. He's kind of doing a social experiment on me right now. I know that there are a lot of sociological experiences accumulated through today, but we need to go beyond those experience and to look for a different from a different perspective to the citizens assemblies. And I'm talking about the 1991 Rio local agenda to our day. We have more than the knowledge accumulation here. And I know that there is a challenge which attracted the attention of an entire city of 6 million citizens. I must admit that. Have we that kind of culture in Ankara? I mean, crimes committed against the city citizens assembly. I'm talking about 6 million population city. I'm talking about the people who are sensitive towards us. I'm talking about the academia. I mean, but on the other hand, I mean, many millions of people were not attracted or interested to this topic. The people from the city didn't know about our presence, and the ration, the mind of the city, ensured the mayor of the city provided the interest toward our assembly. And if they wouldn't be disclosing their interest, we sincerely wouldn't be in this place. We wouldn't be the Ankara Citizens Assembly Voluntary Association. I mean, because you are as alive as you are seen by the others. the Ankara experiences, and Mr. Mansur Yavaş, the mayor of Ankara, his open speeches on the public platforms. I mean, I must admit that. We must admit that. We must admit that in order to have a common platform, a common and strong platform by all the heads of the citizens assembly, we need to do the propaganda of a city in order to spread it. And we need to spread the positive feelings. So this was the Ankara example. And Zafer, as Zafer in here told you, we are like a big family with all the members, and you can see some realities like that. And because we are, of course, a metropole, Ankara Citizens Assembly building is quite big, and we have the state opera artists in here, and we can witness the artists and the head of state theater and opera and mayoralty and presidency symphonic orchestra heads having meetings simultaneously. You can see the immigration meetings. We can see also the international movie producers and the immigrants human who are talking under the same roof. So I think that Ankara Citizens Assembly is a very public umbrella, very public roof. And I think that whenever we are talking that we are expanding too much, I just keep reminding that politics are always in our life, and I think that the participation always starts from the local. Locality, being local, is not a narrow concept, and everything in our lives starts from the local. And for a local governance, who serves better the people, we need to ensure participation and involvement. We need a better propaganda. And because we don't have a budget, we don't have a legal entity, those things means that the population was a little bit afraid of us. Now we are in Ankara, we are more than 2005 institutions, from universities to foundations to techno cities. Some of us are representing 90K persons, some of us are representing just 10 persons, it doesn't matter, but we are always conveying the same message, that you are more valuable than us. From our mayoralty to public institutions, we are asking to everyone the same question: what can we do for you? How can we serve you? We have a lot of volunteers, we have topics for the city issues, and we need to talk together. We need to establish such a volunteership basis. And we are always asking people if we can support them. And we are telling people that we are not competing with them. We are conveying messages that they don't need to be aware, because at the beginning, when they were doing empathy, people were a little bit stressed, anxious about us, and they were like, okay, with time we'll get them, we'll understand them. For a very long time, there was a population who wasn't aware about the Citizens Assembly, but now we are like, okay, we can discuss everything. And the citizens, because they weren't able to contact us, weren't able to find a platform to convey their issues, they speak through the Citizens Assembly. Nuray in here, she's also appealing to this topic. we here in Ankara, for us is quite difficult because, I mean, we are trying to work based upon your experiences, and of course in Ankara we have good results. Do I still have time? I'm following up. I think that I received a warning. Okay, okay. You'll have more 5 minutes. So just you are not allowing me extra time as a colleague. So we have a 84. We are 84 billions of people. We are the city who established the city. This is the city of Mustafa Kemal, and this is the city of all the beauties in the Turkey. And our responsibility started from the beginning of 19th century. And whenever there is an earthquake in Izmir, every mayor gets together in relation to the earthquake in Izmir, and we need to put our voice up over Ankara. We are talking for a very long time about the climate change, the climate crisis, and of course Ankara should be in the front of everything. For example, it doesn't matter if we didn't have any fires, any forest fires, but we still be on the upfront and we still be talking, and we need awareness, and we know about our responsibility. And a little bit beyond our job description, during the pandemic, we tried to tackle the topics which weren't included in our agenda. We we had a lot of cyclists and bicycle couriers who delivered foods to disabled people, to the older population. On we tried to bridge the city as it was 100 years ago, and of course we are not anymore a small village, a small and pristine village in the middle of Anatolia. During the last 15, 20 years, we are a little bit cold, let's say. There are diversifications, there are different classes in the city. There are advantaged and disadvantaged segments of population. There are different sociologies in the cities, and we need to, and we undersigned a lot of organizations in order to bridge those populations together. And in Sakarya village, we were together with thousands of people near the Sakarya witnesses, martyrs, and we did an organization in there. And also, just because it was a traditional thing, we organized an event for Noah's pudding, and we did this within 24 hours. We try to preserve our folkloric and traditional organizations. We try to overcome the prejudices, and we try to become a citizens assembly in a city where everything is talked in here, because I think that Ankara Citizens Assembly provide the trust to its citizens. Now we have a youth council, and we have 300 members, and we try to tackle the problems. We try to focus on the solutions. Can you slowly wrap up, Halil? In summary, without making people stressed, anxious in the city. We try to do something. We try to gather all the sociologists together, and we have a very favorable climate right now. And for the last 20 years and last 10 years, we did good things. I'm very happy that you are here, and I want to offer my thanks to to Cemil Aslan, our General Secretary, and to Marmara Associations of Municipalities for MARUF organization. I think that there are a lot of things that we can learn from them. I want to pay my respects to all the technical teams and to the listeners. Thank you very much, Halil. We have some questions. I want to forward those questions to you. So this is how I want to spend our last 10 minutes. And I think that Marcel can answer this question. What are the long terms for development of the United States strategies, development strategies? What about the reactions to the projects and awareness under those UN? What are the recommendation decisions to this end? What we know that Balıkesir Citizens Assembly is working. What do you think? You have 2.5 minutes. Thank you. It's a very accurate question. We are working a lot to meeting those demands, and it was one of our top priorities, the sustainable development, and we wanted to set up the priorities which belongs to our city. Urfa worked on a topic, Eskişehir worked on a different topic, Balıkesir worked on a different topic. We did seminars and workshops to this end. As you know, the Citizens Assemblies offers mechanisms of recommendations and consultations, and we are creating projects, reports, ideas, and opinions. Citizens Assembly of Balıkesir, and I know that the other assemblies are offering very valuable recommendations too. And with the contribution of the mayor, we talked about, we drafted a lot of report about environmental pollution related to the boards and the signs, and we try to implement such regulations. I think that it's a very strong contribution. I think it is very important for the city. On the other hand, we need to raise awareness at the level of Citizens Assembly, and not only for the population, not only as the population, but as the owner of the city, we should adopt these volunteering mechanisms. And I think that obstacle-free city, under this concept, we are working with a lot of NGOs. We have the Strong Woman projects, and at Balıkesir, our youngsters gathered together and they did some developments during the COVID period, and they issued an online youth magazine, and they gathered from all corners of Turkey. We have 100 youngsters. They went from Anıtkabir to Sakarya and then to Dumlupınar. It was a very historical journey. And I think that it was a very good thing to have those volunteers in here under the same roof. And I think that we have a very valuable contribution in here. And I want to offer my thanks to those volunteers. and also to Marmara Assemblies Associations and all of you. Thank you very much, Mürsel. And also we still have 3 minutes to lean another question for you. Does What is the functionality of the things that are done under the local governance? Can you complete this with one or two sentences? We need a participation budget in here as a strong tool because the budget in here allocated to participation is as a security to implement the ideas in here. Therefore, it is very important that many reported topics within the Citizens Assembly to be put on the agenda and to be implemented. And we need more participation tools. I think that this would be a more advantageous situation. I think that what you just said, that we need more requirements, and I think that those tools will respond to more requirements. I'm gonna get back to Nuray. I'm monitoring the watch. So what about our ideology? Does the city actually needs to grow bigger, to develop even more? Can we discuss this? Can I have a few sentences? It's a very good question indeed. Do the cities need to grow? I think that the healthy growing is the most necessary. The people need to have a bigger green area per capita. I think that this is a healthy indicator of the development of a city. We need more green areas in the people in which the people which are inhabited by the people. Of course, we more livable cities. This is our concept. But what we should put in those cities, we know that we have traffic issues. We say let's make more roads for the traffic, but our teachers, our academicians says that if you put more roads, you have more traffic. Then we can say that the Citizens Assembly, they need to work to break up the memorized things, the rules, the already set rules. Exactly, pay more importance to the human health. And the last question to Halil Ibrahim. What about inclusivity? We want to be inclusive, to include everyone. How can we do that? How can we be more inclusive, and can we be more inclusive? How can we include the opinions of everyone? What do you think? What's your opinion? I'm not Konya Citizens Assembly head, but I have also that roomy approach. Just come, doesn't matter who you are. I think that we convince the people to do that. But I think as Nurayn here said, I just saw this picture in the morning from Istanbul, and therefore the citizens assemblies will tell us just come, doesn't matter who you are. I mean, but what if we see that over the Ministry of Justice, over the Urban Settlement Department? I mean, we need participation in place for this one. We need to be human. We need to open space to ourselves. So this is how we should solve our problems. We need to object actually to this structuring. So this is the point where we say like just come whenever you are. We should trying to tackle the problems with each other. We still have 30 seconds, and I just said that the citizens' assemblies are telling us just to come, and it doesn't matter who we are, but we need to abide by a common participation culture, and we need to say, I'm so sorry against crimes. We don't want to be together with you in committing crimes against cities. And in all the gray areas, with all the colors and richness of the city, we want to be together. And I want to offer my thanks to all of our directors for their participation.